here I introduce Bhargav. Okay, so he is one of your seniors. So he's 2016, 16 passed out.
2011 to 2015, sir.
2011 to 2015 batch. So he was expert here. He was a good student here. He was very close to many of us here. And today he will discuss about the career path in cyber security. Okay, hope you people will get the benefit, and even you can guide some of the students to take up the certifications. So
Yes, sir. Like some of a couple of students from different departments, like one from I guess ECE and the other one I don't remember him. They can't. They used to contact me. Like they are in touch with me. They keep on asking about multiple these are paths or different certifications that they can do. In terms of career. So yeah, I've been guiding them since like 3 to 6 months. Karthik sir has sent them to me
okay.
to get some insights about choosing the cybersecurity as a career.
Okay.
So yeah.
Okay. Now you can please take up and you can continue. Okay. Thank you. So
Yes,
I request all students to please mute. Okay.
yeah. Anytime you have, you can either ping here in the chat. I can answer them. But if at all, if you have to speak something, make sure that your surroundings are quiet so that others will not be disturbed. With that, let's get started. Yeah, this is very a brief about me, my name, and my current role, what I'm working on. So today we'll be discussing more about career path, not just as a kind of what kind of roles are available or something like that, but in terms of understanding the cybersecurity itself. How we can. Sorry, guys. Yeah, cybersecurity. Why you need to choose cybersecurity and what role skill set or other things that is required for cybersecurity. So the next 1 hour we'll be spending on understanding the computer, the essentials of cybersecurity, as in what are all the basics that we have to understand in order to choose cybersecurity as the career path, and what are all the different career paths we have. Like we have offensive security, defensive security, and some says that there is a neutral path as well, like those who want to go in as an auditor or compliance, compliance in the sense like making sure that all your processes are in line. I better come inside. Sorry again for the disturbance. Do that can execute programs that can be, in terms of executing something or achieving something through the computer. We know about internet, everything else. But beyond that, we have to understand logs, ports, protocols, computer forensics, and finally troubleshooting the computer. So logs and ports, why they are important for cybersecurity is because a computer can be reached using three things. One, the IP address, and the port, and also the host names. So whenever you hit a website, it is associated with a port, with an IP, and a host name if the same computer is hosting multiple websites. So an attacker, if they want to hack any computer or cause some damage to the computer, these are the three things that are available to the attackers, to operate it remotely or to conduct any sort of attack. And logs, the importance of logs is that they will contain all the information, all the activity related information that is being done on the particular computer. And finally, troubleshooting as in like not like fixing some sort of Windows errors or something like that. Troubleshooting as in terms of cyber security, like for example, some processes some processes broken. Process is nothing but kind of, for example, if the system is communicating with the client in terms of, for example, in e-commerce website, when you're trying to place an order, and abruptly system is broken, like you're not seeing anything, you're not receiving any response. So that is something, process is broken, like uh, the business has been broken, and it could be because of many reasons. One such could be due to the attackers hacking the computer and causing the abrupts. And then and there are like vulnerabilities. So a computer can be vulnerable because of many reasons. One is unwanted processes. The other is user error or something like that. So I would like to focus more on uh, the vulnerabilities and everything else. So, and we have computer threats as well. Like threats are nothing but attackers or any users, internal users, disgruntled employees, or sometimes unknown errors, or sometimes like people do some things without actual knowledge of what they're doing. Like for example, someone can try to do something, download something that is having the malware. For example, like you receive an email and then that contains an attachment. You never know that it is a malicious attachment, but still you download it and you open it, and then that will cause a threat to the system. And we'll also go briefly about what can be done to protect the computer from such kind of threats. So like I said in the agenda, the 5 essentials for a career in cybersecurity. These are the key essentials. Like the computer networks, you can always focus on computer network, because like I said, the computer can be reached from the internet using 3 things: IP, port, and the host name. So internet is nothing but collection of a lot of computer networks. So if you have in-depth understanding about computer networks, like TCP/IP stack, protocol stack, how different things like switches, routers, hubs, they all work, and what are all the security implications of all these network appliances. What is the TCP? What is UDP? Maybe some of you guys are in second year CSE, so you may not have exposure to all these things like computer networks or TCP/IP or something like that. But what I would suggest is that if you are planning to have some sort of kickstart to your cybersecurity career, what I would suggest you is that do not wait until third year or whenever this subject is being taught in the college, but I would suggest go online, search for the material, search for the YouTube videos. I guess like you will be finding plenty of material. You can also reach out to me, so that I can share some of the material that I have already with me. Cryptography, information security principle, network security. Computer forensics is a bit difficult to find something online, and at the same time, I guess it would be a little bit difficult as well to understand, because at your level, I would say that understanding the computer from in and out, and also understanding the operating systems in and out, would be a tough task. But if you have the interest and eagerness, uh, nothing would stop you. Again, you can go ahead and start somewhere with the computer forensics as well. But as far as the other four are concerned, computer networks, cryptography, and network security, I guess in the undergraduate level itself, will be introduced to learn about computer networks and cryptography, and to some extent information security principles as well. So whenever you get a chance in the class, be focused, be practical, and try to ask more doubts and get it clarified with your professors. You can also find, like I said, you can also find a lot of information on the computer networks and all these five essentials. Cryptography, in a higher level, I would say that uh, it's a it's a it's a technique that is being used in the cybersecurity. Like for example, whenever you're communicating with any website, you would see a padlock symbol on the URL bar, like HTTPS. So that padlock symbol is nothing but is implemented using the cryptography. Cryptography is basically deals with confidentiality of the data. To say the confidentiality, it is nothing but secrecy. We are trying to protect all the communications that are happening on the internet using the algorithms, using the cryptographic keys. So like you can understand more about cryptography, maybe we can have a differentiation about discussing each subject at a higher level, and how it is being implemented within the organization or within the business. So we can discuss further, like, but as far as this presentation goes on, like I will be briefing about the career path, and what are all the things that we need to have to start the career in the cybersecurity. So maybe we can discuss that later, or you can find, like I said, you can find a lot of information on the internet as well. So the first thing here is like, even before thinking about career path in offensive security or defensive security, you can always ask yourself a question like, am I really that kind of person who wants to step up in the difficult situations, who want to answer open-end questions? Like for example, you will be having a lot of scenarios, something will break, like I said in the example, when you're trying to place an order, suddenly system stopped responding. Not your system, but the server system has stopped responding. So things like that will pop up in your daily life, and when you're working for some company, as a cybersecurity analyst or penetration tester, something like that. So all you need to have is that to step up, read the scenario, understand it. If you have the solution already with you, maybe you can go with it, or you should be able to think through it, find out the root cause, analyze the situation, and come out of it with a solution. I mean, it no need to be right answer or wrong answer, but you should have that kind of mentality, that hacker mentality, to think through, to understand the computer, what could be the reason or what could be the root cause of this problem. So if you are that kind of person, then I would say you can dream about having a career path in cybersecurity. But if you're not that person, you can always make yourself suitable for this career path if you have interest. Always try to learn more and more, not just try to get it right, but try learning more and more. That would definitely help you. So coming to the career path, there are, like, we have three tracks here, like I said: offensive security, defensive security, and the neutral path. So we'll go and discuss about offensive security. So offensive security is nothing but you don't react to the situation, but instead you will proactively conduct a security assessments or security attacks. The difference between the penetration tester and hacker is nothing but the penetration tester has the permission to exploit all the weaknesses in your system. For example, like I said, vulnerability is nothing but a weakness in the system. That something that can be exploited or used for carrying out some sort of attack, or try that can be used to break some sort of processes, like I said, placing the order. So things like that. So the penetration tester or whoever is working in the offensive security roles, what they do is that they proactively try to exploit all the weaknesses in the system, like any attacker would do, and then they will try to understand and analyze the impact that will cause to the business and to the system itself. But you will be working on conducting some sort of security related assessments on the systems, like for example, if there is a system and you need to do penetration testing on that. So you will be doing like black box penetration testing, white box penetration testing. Maybe some of the third year students would be having idea about what is white box and black box testing. So like in one line, white box is nothing but you will be having the idea about the network or the system that you are testing. And while in the black box, you don't have any idea about the system or the network that you are testing. So what you would do in the black box, you will follow all the best practices, all the attack scenarios that you have, and you try to exploit the system through using all these attack scenarios. But in the white box testing, you will be particularly testing some sort of process or some sort of software, where you will be having a great understanding about the working style of the software or working style of the system. So that is penetration testing. And vulnerability management is nothing but like they will be doing the scans, they will be finding out what are all the vulnerabilities that we have on the system, and they will be prioritizing them based on the severity, whether they are high severe or low severe, and based on that, they will be, they will be following the rest of the process on how to remediate the vulnerability or mitigate the vulnerability. So these are the entry-level job roles that you will find when you want to start your career in the offensive security. Like you will be working as a penetration tester, which is basic and foundational, like unlike these senior level roles where you will be specialized in any of these domains, like wireless security, mobile security, web application security. In order to have all these knowledge, you should be starting somewhere here, like penetration tester and vulnerability management analyst. I would say there would be more roles, as in like titles, uh, like different company will be having different title for each role. But these are predominantly, these are the two main groups that you will find when you want to look for the entry level roles. And then coming to the senior level roles, you will be, you'll be having specialization or domain specific knowledge in these domains, like wireless security, mobile security. Wireless security is nothing but, you will be having a great understanding about all the exploits, all the weaknesses, all the attack scenarios for a wireless network, Wi-Fi, like jamming the signal or sending the loud signal. For example, your mobile will be always like, whenever you turn on the Wi-Fi, your mobile will always look for the strongest signal that you have nearby. So whenever it finds the strongest signal, it will try to connect to it. And if it is secured, it will ask for the username and password. If it is not secured, sometimes it will, if you have the option checked in to connect automatically, then it will connect automatically. So stuff like that, what attackers do is that they will send a loud signal. Loud signal is nothing but having a good signal in a Wi-Fi signal. And then they try to make the victim to connect to that network. And then whatever the communication happening on that network, it will be visible to the attacker. I guess I'm going in simple terms. If you are not understanding what I'm speaking, you can always stop me. I can explain you a little bit further about what I'm talking. So that's wireless security. And mobile security is nothing but assessing the security of the Android or iOS or any other mobile types that we have, like the smartphones, not the feature phones. I guess there will be some sort of, I don't think there will be any security testing done on the feature phones, because they are not accessible from the internet. And they won't be a risk to any organization, because the threat factor there is zero. So there won't be any risk with them. And then cloud specific, these days everything is being moved to cloud, all the data. And then cloud starts with virtualization. Maybe we can dig into it some other time. And then cyber physical systems. Cyber physical systems, nothing but the IoT, Internet of Things, like your refrigerator, uh, you know, your, everything, like your smart light, smart fan, smart TV, everything cyber physical systems. So these are also part of uh, the organization, and they can also be reached using the IP, using the port. Maybe not directly, but they will be having a set-top box kind of thing. Not the Tata Sky set-top box or something like that, but set-top box as in for the devices, for the IoT devices to communicate to it, and that box will communicate to the internet. Because IoT devices, they have very minimal capability in terms of processing. And then the other side of it is cyber threat hunting. Like this is also a proactive security, because you will be thinking like an attacker, and you will be proposing an hypothesis. Like, for example, hey, somebody can do this, somebody can attack this, somebody can use this technique and attack this, and you will build that hypothesis. And what you will do, you will test that hypothesis. Okay, I have imagined this could happen, so let me test that. And if I see something in our systems, then somebody has already breached our systems or hacked our systems. So the roles that you find in cyber threat hunting is threat intel analyst. Basically, they will be analyzing the threat intel, like they show in the movies. Like you'll be receiving a lot of intel, and then you process them, you analyze, and you find out whether it is relevant to you or not, and then accordingly you'll be taking the actions. And cyber threat hunter or engineer is nothing but they they will be thinking as an attacker, and they will be making changes to the systems and find out whether this is resilient, or did something actually happen on the system. If it has happened, then what is the impact, and what are all the other systems that are infected or affected. So they will be doing more attacker role as well as the defender role. So it's like combination of both attacker and the defender. So yeah, this is where my current job is focused on, cyber threat hunting and engineering. And the next level is like threat research and development, R&D. That's more like you will be designing some sort of attacks that can break your security as defenses, and then you will be sharing that material with the rest of the team so that they can make some changes to make the security posture better. And then the defensive side, uh, like the protectors. So you will be uh, applying all the principles, all the patches, software patches. You will be working towards fixing the processes. Like I said, something is broken, and you will be the first person to contact to fix the issue. So you will be having you can find like entry level roles like security operations center analyst, which was the last role that I worked for. I was working as SOC analyst, and then these two are like more or less similar: cybersecurity engineer or analyst and SOC analyst. Only difference is that this role is particularly focused on the operations side of security, whereas cybersecurity engineer and analyst, they will be handling the other roles as well, like updating the antivirus on all the systems, stuff like that. And identity and access management, which was my previous role prior to SOC analyst. So here you will be dealing more about what is identity. Identity, nothing but your username, in simple words, and how it is managed within the organization. Because if you miss any of this, cybersecurity, identity, access management, and all this stuff, your security is not a security. It can be breached, and it can be broken. Somebody can break your security. So the identity part is also very crucial, because if somebody can get hold of your system, the first thing they need to have is your username and password. And if it is not managed properly, then you will be at high risk. And then cyber defense analyst and engineer also, they will also do the same thing. Like they will be uh, analyzing the current shortcomings of the security implementation. Like, for example, you have antivirus X, and it is not sufficient for you to maintain the security posture. So these guys, cyber defense analyst or engineer, what they do is that they will analyze other solutions that we have in the market, and they will analyze our business, like the company that you're working for. And then if it is finding a match, then they will analyze, they will do the POC, proof of concept, whether it will be whether this new tool will work for us or not. So stuff like that, they will be doing that. Coming to the senior level, the cybersecurity incident response analyst. So whenever you hear something like some attacks or some breach, these are the people behind that, behind fixing those kind of breaches, like cybersecurity incident response analyst, the senior level. The incident handler is nothing but when something happens, something bad happens, he or she is the person that is responsible for handling the incident safely, in order not leaking the data, managing everything. And this is the manager role he'll be working on. And this is a cybersecurity advisor. Like these guys mainly, they will be creating the rules of what is correct and what is not correct. They will be advising on the security posture of the system, architecting the system, security architecture, stuff like that. And the other track we have here is that malware engineering. You might have heard about virus and how virus will affect the system, and like we have different antivirus softwares as well to defend from those kind of threats. But those antivirus softwares also need some sort of material in order to understand that this is a virus and this is not a virus. So this particular track will be like, they will be working for some antivirus company, uh, creating signatures, like signature as in, like, for example, there is a file X, and file X is known to be malicious, and you should make your tool understand that this particular file is malicious. Somebody raised their hand. Go ahead. Hello.
Yeah, Bhargav, any issues?
Yeah, somebody raised their hand, sir. Maybe they are having some doubt.
Yeah.
So yeah, if they don't have anything, then I will continue, sir. So malware engineering is nothing but, like, you will be, like I said, you will be working for some antivirus company, and for example, there is a file X, and you should make your tool, the antivirus tool that is being developed by your company, to understand this particular file is a malware. So what you would do as a malware analyst, you would be analyzing this malicious file in a secured environment like virtual machines. You will be finding out more details why this is a malicious file, and then you will be creating a signature. Hey, if any file have these things in its code or in its software, then this is considered as this particular type of malware, and delete it. So that's how that's your job. Like, you'll be creating a signature, and you'll also be defining the actions, what action should be taken by the antivirus software. So that's a malware analyst. Malware researcher is nothing but, they will be, for example, like if the malware is too complex to be done by the analyst, what they do is that they will do partial analysis, and then they will forward it to the malware researcher, where they would be doing advanced analysis to find out the behavior and other things that the malware is capable of doing. Malware engineer is like, they will be reverse engineering the malware, like they will be ripping off, dissecting the malware, like they will open the code inside the malware. Basically, you will find assembly language. So I would advise, whenever you get a chance academically to learn about assembly language, try to understand it, try to apply it practically, try to uh, write some programs, small programs, try to understand it. That will be helpful if you are having any plans to start your career as a malware analyst, or in this track. And then malware scientists, they will be either creating the malware, so that their tool will be having advanced knowledge, and then can actually stop 0-day exploits. Like they will be having a machine learning background where they can train the tool, uh, so that the tool will automatically block the malicious files. Like unlike the malware analyst who will be creating signatures, which is which is like signature can be changed by the malware. Like this signature is created based on the behavior of the malware. So malware can change its behavior if the other author wants to change it. So in order to tackle with those advanced threats, these malware scientists and malware experts, they will be working on such kind of advanced threats, how to stop them. And coming to the computer forensics is very important when you are investigating some sort of data breach or any sort of cyber attacks, because whenever there is a breach or attack, the hackers will leave some sort of traces in your network itself, like the connections, the traffic, the ports, like I said, the ports, different protocols like TCP, UDP, stuff like that. So being a computer forensics analyst or examiner, what you will be doing is that whenever something happens, you go to that particular system, find out the indicators of compromise. Compromise is nothing but attack. So indicators are nothing but the IP address, protocols, many more. Like there are many indicators of compromise, not only from the system's perspective, but there are other things as well that can be considered as indicators of compromise. Once you start learning about the cybersecurity, you will understand what are the indicators of compromise and how they can be leveraged to analyze some sort of some breach. So the computer forensics examiner is mainly responsible for conducting the forensics, taking the exact, taking the system and then analyzing, finding out what happened, what is the impact, and they will present all the report to the management. They can be even asked to come to the court. If it is a legal matter, then yeah, they will be presenting the report to the judge as well, so that company can legally take action on the attacker. So it's very interesting role where you will be having, where you should have a knowledge about all the three tracks, like entry level, malware engineering, senior level, because you need to understand the computer inside out and able to perform or detect what had happened to that particular system. So, and in this also we have different tracks, because one person cannot do everything. So we have like digital forensics, like computer forensics, network forensics. Whenever something happens, this particular network forensic examiner, he will be taking the network data and then examining it to find out the indicators of compromise. Windows forensics, uh, because Windows also offers some sort of detecting mechanisms, so that the companies can detect what had happened to that particular system. Memory forensics, nothing but when something happens on the system, most of the data that is being currently used will be in the RAM, right? So when you get hold of the RAM, the exact snapshot of the RAM, you will find most of the details related to an attack. So these guys, they will be doing memory forensics. And then smartphone forensics, like the same applies to smartphone as well. Like if any mobile is hacked or breached, then smartphone forensic examiner, they will conduct the forensic analysis, and then they will find out the root cause. So like all these things is somewhat out of normal, like unlike, I mean, like any other software engineering track, where you can find abundant material about Java, about any other programming language that you wish to learn or start career in the software industry. But this particular cybersecurity, you don't find too many answers. Like for example, for any program, if you want to find some answer on the internet, you will type the scenario and you will be getting a lot of websites like Stack Overflow, stuff like that, and you will be finding some answers. But whereas in security, whenever you search for any scenario in the security domain, you don't find answers. You find only the concepts. This particular concept can be applied to arrive at the solution. So you have to do it on your own, whatever it is, whatever the uh, scenario that you're dealing with in the company, you have to do it on your own. For that, you should have a strong background in all these, like I explained in the essentials. You should have understanding about all these things to some extent. Like if you are a beginner, you'll not be expected to do everything for the company in terms of security, right? You will be having certain expectations from you. I mean, they will be having certain expectations from you. So in order to meet that or exceed that expectations, you should have a strong technical background about all these uh, things. Computer network, like I said, different protocols, understanding the TCP/IP protocol stack, understanding the different network appliances like firewalls, routers, switches, understanding the OS from the security standpoint, like I explained earlier in the computer forensics roles, because even though you are not working as a computer forensic examiner, but even at the beginner level, when something happens, you should be having an idea about, okay, for example, if an email is, if a person has downloaded a malicious attachment, you should be having an idea about what this particular attachment is and how it can affect this particular system. If the malicious file is written for Windows, and if the user is using Linux, then you should be able to tell that this particular malicious file will not affect this Linux system, because this malicious file is written for the Windows system. So in order to tell these small differences at the beginner level, you should have the understanding about the operating system, why something work, why something will not work from the security standpoint. Uh, like I said, you have to understand the cryptography as well, because most of the times, what the attackers does, what they do is that in order to in order to break the defenses, they will use the cryptographic techniques, like they will hide the text, the plain text, using some cryptography. And if you are working in the defense side, what you will do is that you will try to uncover that hidden text and find out the actual intention of the attacker. So you need to have a deep understanding about cryptography as well. If you are working, if you are looking for a pen tester or any offensive roles, you should have both understanding about the computer networks and all these, the top three. And also you should have a deep understanding about scripting languages, programming languages, what are all the vulnerabilities, and how I can exploit it using the programming background that I have. So you should have more knowledge in order to start your career in the offensive security. For that, you will be having a lot of resources online. One of them is Hack the Box. Hack the Box is they offer some vulnerable virtual machines on which you can try all your tricks to exploit that particular machine and break it, so that you'll be learning more about how I can break a system or how I can secure a system, right? So you can always start working on that kind of stuff. But I would say you should have a knowledge about all these basics, like computer networking concepts, understanding the OS and understanding the cryptography. For that, we have some sort of certifications as well, where you can start with CompTIA A+, that will cover about your understanding about the computer and the systems. Network Plus, that will deal with the network and how it is being used for cyber security. Security Plus is a bit advanced, where it will deal about not only from the security perspective, but also how you can react and respond to different attack scenarios. So that is a very good certification. If you have knowledge about systems and networks, you can directly jump onto CompTIA Security Plus. Of course, all these are related with some cost, like you have to pay some amount for the certification to write the exam. And then pen testing with Kali. So do you have any idea about what Kali Linux is? I guess
Yes,
you
sir,
might be.
it's a Linux flavor.
Yeah, it is a Unix flavor.
Linux.
But beyond that, sorry?
It's a Linux flavor which is used by the attackers to go out, to enter into a server or a website. So by using the MCF Metasploit, so they're entering into a website by using tools such as a Heartbleed, so that
Yeah.
due to the vulnerable ports, they can.
Correct. Yeah, true. You're right. Yeah. So the Kali Linux can be used by the bad guys and can also be used by the good guys. Like when bad guys can do bad things, good guys can do good things with that, right? So Kali Linux is a very powerful tool for the penetration testers in order to, test the security of any particular network or system. So pen testing with Kali is the basic, starting foundational certification that is offered by Offensive Security Organization. So yeah, relatively it is a little bit difficult because you should have a deep understanding about Kali Linux, its file system, how the file system is in the Kali Linux, and you should know about different items like what are all the logs, what are all the daemons. So it gets more interesting, when you discuss about the Kali Linux and its the skeleton of Kali Linux, how different things are designed and how they contribute towards analyzing or assessing the security strength of any organization. And finally, the certified ethical hacker. This is not something an advanced certification. I would say many people are calling it as a crap now. So maybe I would say you need not to do this certified ethical hacker certification, but just like if you are feeling comfortable and you want to gain some knowledge, you can do this certified ethical hacker. It's a easy peasy certification. You can crack it. SANS, Cybersecurity Career Path. SANS is a very renowned organization in cybersecurity arena. They have very good resources. Like I would suggest, if you want to learn more about cybersecurity essentials or any trending white papers, like you can go there. You can create your own account. You can utilize SANS Reading Room. SANS Reading Room, you'll be having a lot of material on any topic about cybersecurity. If you want to learn more about threat hunting, if you want to learn more about penetration testing, forensics, on everything, you'll be finding a lot of material. A lot of approaches on how something can be carried out or and how something can be defended. You'll be finding a lot of material. Like, so they have their own their own suggestion about choosing the career path, like where you'll be starting here, core techniques like security essentials, hacker techniques, and then you can move on to monitoring and detection, like defensive security, like I explained, SOC analyst, other roles, cybersecurity engineer, analyst, all those roles. So they come under monitoring and detection. Penetration testing, this is like vulnerability analysis and ethical hacking. Incident response and threat hunting, I used to work here in the previous job. And then from here, you can jump to the offensive side as well, like threat intel and forensics, which is my current role. And then you can move on to these advanced levels. Like you can find this career map here on this at this location, sans.org, cybersecurity skills roadmap. You can Google it directly, or maybe if I share this presentation with you, then you can use this link directly. So these are the different certifications. Like these are really good, and of course they are very, very expensive. Like each certification in our currency, it is like 6 lakhs, 7 lakhs. So I don't say that, I don't suggest that you do this because it's very, very expensive. So recently I completed this security essentials, and then I'm working on this threat intel certification. So yeah, of course they are being paid by the company, so it's not from my pocket. So these are some certifications, like, when you're working for some company, you can try to attempt these. There is some material also with me. Probably I can share, if you have interest, you can reach out to me. I can share that material with you. It's huge. It's like 70 gigs. So I cannot share it through email or something like that. But if you have any interest in any of these tracks, you can ask me. I can share that material with you. Uh, so that's about SANS security career path. And coming to cybersecurity in USA. So many people, when you're in the second year or third year, you'll be having some plans of, going to abroad, or working on cybersecurity, doing masters, like people like me. I did my masters here in cybersecurity. So when you complete your course, or when you come to US, having the cybersecurity background, you will be finding, of course, a lot of jobs, but also a lot of hardships as well, in terms of, some roles require security clearance, which is given by the uh, US government. So of course, ultimately, you are not the citizen, or you are not the permanent resident in the beginning, so you will not be receiving the security clearance. So directly you are not eligible for those kind of job opportunities. So unlike software engineers, you don't find too many opportunities in too many companies. You will be having limited opportunities in the limited companies, and these are the those limited companies, like product-based companies like Microsoft, Google. Apart from these top tech companies, there are other product-based companies as well, like SAP or the GoDaddy, or the company that I'm working for. Um, whose business is also in the internet domain, and they are having their own products. So they will have their own security teams, so in order to protect their resources. Service-based companies like TCS, Wipro, CTS, all those companies that you know of, they will also have the security teams for in-house security teams, and also they will be providing their teams to other clients as well, like clients in US, clients in different parts of the globe. Managed security service provider, they are also kind of service-based company, but their main business, or their main service is the security. They will be having uh, big teams, big security teams. They will be dealing with different clients. So you will be working for one of their clients, like their main service is security. So you will be having a lot of opportunities uh, with those companies. And then other companies like retail industry, financial industry, medical and healthcare industry, they will also have their own security teams, but their main focus is not security, or their main revenue generator is not cyber security, because retail industry, they will be having business set up, selling some retail product, or some sort of clothes, or some running shoes, some products. Financial industries are nothing but banking. Obviously cybersecurity is not their main business. So these are all, like, in these industries, cybersecurity is kind of it is playing a support role. Like, they will be the security team will be mainly focused on fixing or protecting the resources belonging to these companies in these three industries. Like healthcare, it is very important to protect the patient data, because if that is being exploited or breached, it can be used, it can be sold on the dark web, where people can find the healthcare industry and can, what do you call that, sell their products. For example, if somebody got to know that person X is being diagnosed with typhoid, okay, and that data is available on the dark web. So I can use that and call him saying that, hey, you have typhoid, so maybe I can recommend these. And so what, the privacy and the security has been breached for that particular person's data. So stuff like that is very harmful for the business. uh, Businesses can can lose a lot of fame and money, and sometimes can run out of the business as well. So they can completely be disappeared if something big happens in terms of security. So it is very, very important for them to protect their assets and their information. So they do hire for security roles. So you will be having opportunities with them as well, with these companies as well. So like in terms of salaries, I would say not to dream more about money, rather than dream about gaining quality knowledge and quality experience, because ultimately you will be paid off for your hard work. So I would say don't look for the money in the initial career phase, but ultimately once you get the knowledge and the experience, you will be reaching to different other roles, advanced and senior level roles with these product based companies, or managed security service providers. So yeah, so your main focus should be on the on learning the subject and gaining the experience in the cybersecurity domain. With that, it's your time to raise your hands and ask questions. Navin, go ahead.
What about your view on cybersecurity in India, sir?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I think I thought of covering it in the PPT itself, but I missed it. Yeah, so in India also, like the companies have started worrying about the security. Maybe I guess like it has already started, the trend in India also. Like the companies like Wipro, TCS, they are also they don't really hire for security roles from the campus, but what happens within the company once you are hired from the campus is that you will be put into different teams randomly for training, and if you are lucky, you will be you will be landing in the security team. But if you want to go and apply on your own, what I would suggest is that you try to understand the security concepts in your academics itself, and try to learn about the certifications. Like if not even like not I don't suggest that you have to complete the certification, but at least if you can cover the syllabus for the certification, you will be gaining a lot of knowledge, and with that knowledge maybe you can crack the interviews if you are applying on your own for the security related roles. So yeah, the trend has already started in India as well. There are I don't say plenty of jobs, but there are enough jobs for the enough applicants, so you can start working on that as well.
Sir, I haven't. Sir.
Sure, go ahead.
So nowadays, some of the companies are being using the HTTP protocol websites, no, sir. So which has the is my
Yeah,
voice audible, sir?
yeah, you are audible. Maybe you can speak a little bit louder.
So now is my voice clear, sir?
Yeah, it is loud and clear now. Yeah, go ahead.
So nowadays in India, so many startups are being done, and so they have been using the HTTP extension website, no, sir. So due to which there is a security problem to them due to the low vulnerability ports. Due to the low security version and the TLS version, transport layer security version, and the OpenSSL version is very low. So that so they can't afford for going to a HTTP extension website. So they have been using HTTP website, no, sir. So what the doubt I have is to keeping the multi-factor authentication to the HTTP users when they have been logging on, so they might get more secure, sir.
I can see where this question is coming from. Like, so because we don't have enough money or we can't afford security to implement HTTPS, you're suggesting that they can use something like multi-factor authentication.
Yes.
So I guess that won't be a good solution because you're only dealing about the logging. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Maybe so without HTTPS, your username and password is exposed. Okay. So if somebody wants to listen to your communication, they can get the username and password details directly. And maybe, MFA would be an efficient solution to some extent, but it won't be very effective because once you log in and once you try to exchange information with the server, you remember that because we don't have HTTPS implemented here, all the communication that you are doing with the server is in plain text. That means the attacker or whoever the party eavesdropping on your communication line, they can get the information they are looking for. They don't need your credentials. You
So,
understand what I'm saying?
yes, sir. So you know that the payload concept, no, sir. He will be writing the payload concept such as heartbeat requests. So 1 KB to 65 to 655 KB, something like that. So except the payload concept, is there any other method, sir, to exploit the server or the particular website?
Yeah, I mean, like there are many techniques these days. If like the payloads that you're talking about, maybe they can be detected by the antivirus or the defensive techniques that they have in place. So these days, what the attackers or whoever is trying to break something is doing is that uh, they are using the people as the one of the vulnerability in the system, not as the computer system, but in the organization system, because people can be exploited in many ways using the trust, using some sort of intimidation. You'll get an email saying that if you don't click on this link, your so and so things will be expired or you will be penalized for not clicking it. So stuff like that, stuff like that makes the people to click on that particular link, and people are stealing their credentials. And once you have the credentials with you, you can log in as a normal user into that system and do the bad stuff. Apart from these, there are other techniques as well, like like I said in the presentation, like somebody can send you a bad file. That bad file is capable of doing the bad stuff for the attackers. So yeah, there are many different techniques where the attackers are trying to deploy and get their job done other than the exploits. Of course, like Metasploit, it is being used for the reverse TCP session, but that is not the initial step. That is like 4 or 5 or maybe sometimes 3, because so you have to first deploy your initial stuff in order to gain access to that particular system, and then you can jump onto payloads and share with that. You should make things work in the beginning, and then you can get the access of the system using the payloads. Yeah, that's a good question.
Thanks. So how can we make the ports to be closed? Due to the vulnerable ports, only HTTP extension websites have been getting hacked, sir. So how can we maintain that more securely?
So like I said, like in the offensive security side, there are 2 roles, let me go there. Yeah, here you see the vulnerability management analyst. These guys, they are responsible for conducting the vulnerability scan on the organization's network and find out what are all the open ports, what are all the open services, what is the operating system, what is the version of that particular operating system, and then they analyze and assess the vulnerabilities. Hey, this particular system is being used as a web server. Okay, so for a web server, what are all the required ports to be opened? 443 and port 80, right? Because it is a web server and it is being often questioned with web request. So the required ports are 443 and 80. So you don't need other ports or other services. So just get rid of them so that your system will be responding only to the HTTP request, right? So that is one way of hardening or securing your system. The other thing is, like, what are all the other systems and what is the location of this particular system in our organization? Is it internet facing or is it internal? Does it have sensitive data hosted, or it doesn't have any sensitive data hosted? So these guys, they do like I was doing this in my internship. So what they do is that they will assess all these scenarios, and then they will be working with different teams so that they can fix them or apply patches so that your system will be resilient or strong enough to sustain itself from the cybersecurity attacks, most of the common attacks.
Sir, is there any platform to practice the ethical hacking, sir? So not such as the Kali Linux. Is there any online platform, sir, to perform
You
ethical
can,
hacking?
yeah,
For
you can start working on Hack the Box. I guess they have some free material as well to offer. So Hack the Box is an online platform where you will be having a virtual machines, vulnerable virtual machines. You have to find them, find the vulnerability. You have to crack them using your expertise.
so for the certification courses, can we make our hands dirty, sir? So just like we'll being practicing that.
Yeah, I mean, like when you do pen testing with Kali, certifications like this, offensive security certified professional. So there are certifications like this where you will be challenged, to crack the real world vulnerabilities, and you have to write a report as well. So this particular exam, pen testing with Kali, is a 24-hour long exam.
Okay.
That exam duration is 24 hours long. So you will be working. I mean, you will be challenged to crack a particular vulnerability or to exploit a particular vulnerability, and write a report about how you did it and how you can close that particular vulnerability. So it's very extensive and practical exam. Pen testing with Kali and other subsequent certifications. Maybe I will show you them. I will show them to you. You see here, the offensivesecurity.com. These are the actual developers of Kali Linux. So, what do you call that? Yeah, certifications and courses. So you see these OSCP, pen testing with Kali, advanced web attacks and exploitations, cracking the perimeter, advanced Windows exploitation. So all these are very extensive and also, what do you call that, very practical. So these are the 3 learning paths. Like after you do the pen testing with Kali, PWK, this one, this,
Yes. Okay, sir.
you can start with this. And even like to crack this basic, you should have a proven background in terms of like the offensive security, like for example, application security engineer or something like that. Burp suit is one tool that is being used to test the application security. You can download this community version and then do whatever you want to, but be careful that if you are trying to exploit some a legitimate website, you are liable and you can be brought to the law as well for doing the unauthorized activity. So I would say look for stuff like Hack the Box. Hack the Box is what do you call it? Yeah, so very good tool, pen testing labs. So like this, you will find other stuff as well. Like I forgot the names, but Hack the Box is being used by most of the professionals for practicing or pen testing.
Thank you, sir.
Mhm.
Thank you, sir. Now I'll be unmuting another person, sir, who has raised his hand.
Sorry, what?
You can unmute the one, sir, who has raised the hand before.
Cool. Yeah. Go ahead.
Okay.
So what about the web security in nowadays, sir? Like most of the applications are running over web applications. Can you give an overview on those things? What we can learn in order to get a job in that kind of sector?
Yeah, so web application security is mainly, like I said, like the Burp suit. Burp suit is one of the tools that is predominantly used for testing the security of a web application in US as well. So mainly you should have a programming background. At least you should have a knowledge about how a web application works in terms of programming and in terms of end-to-end understanding from servlet to the database. Okay, how different things can be implemented and what are all the weaknesses with the implementation. There is a open source project like OWASP, OWASP project top 10. So these are the top 10 application security risks. Injection, you might have heard about SQL injection, where an attacker can inject a SQL query from the web interface itself. Token authentication, like you will be having a session, active session in one browser, and you try to access that particular application from a different browser. So it has the, it is unable to identify who is the actual user that is being currently authenticated. So stuff like that, sensitive data exposure, like for example, if you are showing some error message, you should give a very generic error message. Like for example, if the username and password, if the username is wrong, you should not say that username is wrong, because you're hinting the attacker that, okay, my password is correct, but the username is wrong. So you should not give any specific or any sensitive data in the error messages. You should just say that either your username or password is wrong, so that's why you're having login issues. So very generic information like that. So you can go here, explore more, find out what all these different attacks are and how they can be finally mitigated. OWASP top 10, yeah, that's a very good place to start with, to understand different attacks on web applications. Anything else?
Do you want laptop?
Do I what?
So we are all done with the questions, is it?
Yes, sir.
Rupesh, is it over? Like your friends have done with the questions?
Yes, sir. No one has raised their hands.
Yeah. And the thing is, like, Bhargav, I may request you to please share your email ID, okay, so that they can keep in touch.
Yeah, sure, sir. Definitely.
Yeah.
I think I have included somewhere. No, I didn't.
No, I could see some 40 or 50 art students, okay, who have been constantly attending cyber security relevant things, okay. So this is one starter, I think, okay. So we had a last session with other expert from Singapore, okay, and this is second session. I could see some 40 students constantly having some interest. So I think this club should go on. This club should go on, and yeah. I can add you and other expert who was there to the club, and we can do something, and you can talk to students, and it will be beneficial for them. So that is what I have a plan in my mind. So
Sure.
This will be the cyber security series that it will go on. So this is what I mean. So please share your email ID. Okay, they can ask something, and they will then join hands with you, or it will be beneficial for them.
Sure, sir. Sure, I surely will do that.
Yeah.
I will share, like email, and they can also connect me on connect with me on LinkedIn as well. So my LinkedIn profile is this. If you have already searched for it, you can directly go to this. I'm just pinging in the chart.
You can just type it, okay, in somewhere, so that it.
Yeah, I'm trying to ping it, sir, but I don't think I have enough.
No, whichever email ID is okay for you, you just type it in your PPT so that it is fine.
Okay, sir. Okay. Yeah, I can do that too.
Notepad, even Notepad is also fine.
Yeah. Yeah, that is more convenient. Or they can connect me through LinkedIn as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is about the contact details of Bhargav. Okay, please, students, please take advantage of this. He can definitely guide you into something because he is also into the same shoes, and he will guide you better. I feel. Yes, I hope so because you are also into the same shoes now. So you'll be more nearer, and you will come to know what is what.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can always connect and discuss more.
Yeah.
Those who are interested can always reach out to me either through my email, or you can ping me on LinkedIn. So yeah, don't spam me, but like you can, if you have any doubts like questions, queries, you can ping me on LinkedIn. I'm very active on LinkedIn as well. But you have something to share, like some scenarios where you want to understand more and find out more about that particular topic, yes, you can share them to me through my email. But yeah, I prefer to connect through LinkedIn, and I'm very active on LinkedIn as well, so I can answer all your queries through chatting.
So one more thing is like we had a pending of this talk for last at least I think so nearly 1 year, because previously we thought of having a session and it got suddenly it got disconnected, and we were able to connect. So the students are the direct beneficiaries, I feel, and I assure students that definitely Bhargav will respond to all the queries definitely.
Yeah, I would definitely try to answer
Yeah.
all your questions. And also the important thing I missed to cover in the presentation is to have very good communication skills for to become a successful in the cybersecurity career, because ultimately you work for a business, right? So all the other parties who are also involved, like management or other teams, they should also know about what you're talking and what you're saying. So effective communication is very good tool to be successful in the cybersecurity. I would say email communication, or verbal communication when you're trying to explain something to others. So prepare in this aspect as well. Prepare yourself to have a very good vocabulary, and also very good writing skills. Effective writing skills is always a plus, because you're trying to explain what you're doing in very crisp conversation. So yeah, that's very important to have communication.
So this is all for now, I think so, Bhargav. We can
Yes, sir.
meet sometime later on. Okay.
Sure, sir.
Thank
Definitely.
you all. Thank you very much, Bhargav, for your time. Hope
Thank
a
you,
very
sir.
good morning for you. Good day.
Yeah, I appreciate your time, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.